How on earth did I end up here? Welcome back, everybody. Today we are in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Let me just keep you guys this way. Sorry for the bad camera angles, but I wanted to check this out. We are in grass right now, so that's why I'm walking. But we have some pretty cool statues and cannons and monuments. Not sure who these people are. Major General Oliver Otis Howard, United States Army. Looks pretty cool. Wow, this place is full and rich with history everywhere you look. I read somewhere that I think it might be one of the most places with the most amount of monuments and placards with just little things on it. And I think somebody said there was 14,000 different things you can look at and read. That's just insane. I mean, look, there's more statues over there. Not sure who that guy is. Let me know if you guys know. Now, first off, let me just say, guys, I am not a historian. I'm not even that good at history, okay? I'm just a guy who likes to roller skate. So if I do get something wrong in this video, please just correct me in the comments. Don't say I'm dumb or anything, because I admit I don't know a lot. But before we kind of get into stuff, let me tell you, you do not want to miss how this video ends and where this video is going very shortly. This is just the beginning. We have a lot to see, a lot to do. This happens later.
I want to let you know that in the battlefield here itself, we don't allow rollerblading.
Okay.
People rollerblade here for absolutely not. Yeah.
We got kicked out. That is correct. You will get to see that later. But for now, I would like to say, I need to get over these rocks. That's not what I wanted to say. I want to say thank you to all the members of the channel. You guys support me, and I appreciate that so much, as well as the subscribers. Thank you to all the subscribers that tune in every week to kind of watch me do different stuff. You guys are very much appreciated. We are on the road to 30,000 subscribers. We hit our 20,000 goal. Couldn't ask for more, but I guess I am. Let's try and get to 30. Now, with all that out of the way, we are going to be taking a look at our first cool area. We're kind of in the town area. The battlegrounds and all of like the kind of bigger stuff happened kind of that way. But right here is the Jenny Wade house. Looks like this is the gift shop. I'm not sure if this is the actual house. I'm sure that the house is probably this one over here. Let me just get my facts up really quick. But Jenny Wade was actually a civilian. She was the only civilian to get killed in the Gettysburg Civil War fight. She was, as you can see, she's here holding a piece of bread. She was making dough in her house when a bullet went through the doors and killed her. So that's why she is significant as the only civilian casualty. As far as I'm aware, there was another civilian that fought in the war, but he did not die until a few years later. He was an older guy. I forget what his name was. But this is pretty cool. So let's just go down this road a little bit and check out a little bit of the town without getting hit by a car, hopefully. Go through this gas station here. The roads are a little bit weird here. Oh, very hilly. Okay. Oh, very old-timey. I'm sure this is not what it looked like back in the day, but there's a lot of gift shops and little stores. I'm sure there's tons of places you can eat at. Oh, another thing I wanted to say was that during the course of the video, you're going to hear a lot of talk about the Union and the Confederates, because those were the two major sides in the war. The Union were the North, the Confederates were the southern states. And the reason why Gettysburg is so significant is because this is kind of the biggest war that's ever happened in the Western Hemisphere. And arguably, some say that it is kind of what determined the outcome of who won the whole Civil War. Sorry for the motorcycle. Here's a cemetery. They said strictly no skating in the cemetery, so we're gonna respect that and not go in there. But as I was saying, it was kind of the deciding factor of who won the war. And so that's why it's so significant. the reason why the war kind of happened here, a lot of people say different stuff, but majority think that because Gettysburg is right on the Mason-Dixon line, well, just a few miles above it, and it was like, it had a lot of roads running through Gettysburg, so that's why the war ended up happening here, because it was just the perfect combination of meeting grounds of the North and the South. And so they ended up, people want to say it was over shoes. I don't believe that. We'll get more into that later. It's a big, I don't know, history is a funny thing. Again, we're talking about stuff that happened like over 140 years ago. So a lot of time has passed and a lot of history has been lost, but at the same time, we do know a fair amount. Now, a lot of people know Gettysburg because of the Gettysburg Address that Lincoln famously wrote and delivered. I think it's probably the most famous speech next to MLK's, but I'm not sure on that. For reference, actually people didn't like Abraham Lincoln's speech when he first delivered it because, I don't know if you guys heard the story, but he wrote it on the train on his way up here after the battle had finished. And people didn't like it because it was so short. It was only around 227 words. It only took him a few minutes to even deliver the whole speech. Let me show you guys. This guy's not paying attention at all. So many motorcycles. But anyways, to give you guys a reference, Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, I think was somewhere in the ballpark of 1,600 words. And Abraham Lincoln's, again, was only 227. I hope I'm getting that number right. I might have got it wrong. But yeah, so it was kind of a big, shock when it wasn't very long to a lot of people. And here you can kind of start to see a little bit more of, this is actually kind of an area where they fought at one point, the Union and the Confederates. So, wow. The next part of this video is going to be with a very special guest. His name is Matt. I just met him a little bit ago, and he was nice enough to give us kind of a tour. You guys will see all that. But anyways, I'm gonna stop rambling. We're gonna get on to the second part of this video. It's gonna pick up all abruptly. We'll figure it out in editing. All right, so I'm here with Matt. He's been helping me on my guide of Gettysburg, and I've heard rumors that the war was started over shoes. Is that hearsay?
The battle was started over shoes?
Yeah.
That comes from a Confederate general's report, and he wrote that after the battle, obviously. And he was coming into town with orders not to bring on a general engagement, and so he brought on a general engagement. He allowed himself to be lured into a general engagement, and
so he was kind of breaking the rules a little bit.
Well, he didn't know it,
right?
But yeah, and so he later when he wrote his report, I think, and a couple of I get this from some historians I've spoken to, the thought might be that he was trying to make it look like, oh, my poor boys were barefoot and hungry, we were looking for shoes. And the reality was he just wasn't being careful, in my mind. And they had shoes. They were actually better clothed and fed than the Union troops, because they were all over Pennsylvania without any opposition, and they were just taking everything that they needed: food, equipment, shoes, everything. So the Confederates were in slightly better shape coming into Gettysburg than the Union was. But that's an old myth that's part of the lost cause.
Interesting.
And the lost cause is a narrative that has perverted the Civil War history for over 100 years.
Man, this guy needs to do the tour, man. Oh yeah, and also he does YouTube videos as well. I'll have a link in the description. Please check them out if you want to know a lot better.
Addressing Gettysburg.
There you go, Addressing Gettysburg. I'm going to give you guys my little thing, but look, I'm not a historian. I'm just a guy skating around, so I'll do my best. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
By the way, you should make a point that I'm not a guide.
He's not a guide.
I just like
he just does tours.
Yes, I run a tour company and I do a podcast, but I'm not a guide. I am not a historian. I'm no expert.
So if he gets something wrong, if he gets something wrong, treat him like me, because I don't know anything. Okay, I'm kind of lost on everything.
Exactly.
I just want to let you know that in the battlefield here itself, we don't allow rollerblading.
Okay.
Just bicycling.
Okay.
They have to be on the trails. If you want to rollerblade, you can do it in town.
Got it.
Silly rule, but we just don't allow, like...
Well, at least you admit it.
Yeah, it's silly. It really is. Yeah. All right, well,
guys.
we'll let you out.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Well, here.
We got kicked out.
Right on my pegs.
Welcome back, everybody. Sorry about the shenanigans, but we are in front of the...
Pennsylvania Memorial here at Gettysburg.
what's that about?
Well, this Pennsylvania, obviously we're in Pennsylvania, but Pennsylvania has the second most number of troops in the battle to New York. New York had the most number of troops. And this is put up to the men who fought from Pennsylvania. Around, you've got statues around the side. You see Lincoln. Now, he wasn't from PA, but he gave the Gettysburg Address, and he was president, and he's kind of somebody that everybody likes. So he's up there. You have Governor Curtin, the governor of Pennsylvania at the time, and then some famous Pennsylvania generals as you go around. But what's interesting is these bronze plaques here on the base have all the Pennsylvania regiments and the full roster sheet of the guys who served in those regiments. And then up at the statue, you have Winged Victory. That is the goddess Winged Victory up there.
You guys can see that.
You could also go up to the top. There's a spiral staircase that leads you up there.
No kidding. And we could go up there?
Yeah, we can
Oh,
go up
wow.
there. There's a 8th grade trip about 3 years ago.
It's crazy that they have a staircase in here to begin with.
Yeah, it's cool. And it smells like copper
Uh-huh.
from the...
Wow, it doesn't even seem like there would be space up here, but there is.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you can even go outside. Wow. This is a cool view right here.
Yeah, you can see a good chunk of the battlefield from up here.
Wow. Wow. How cool is that? So they fought all along here? Or?
Yeah, so if you look out in the distance, way past the trees, you see a little steeple?
Yeah, I see it, but the camera probably can't.
No, they can. But it starts out there,
Uh-huh.
and it goes north of town, which you can't see anything that's north of town because of the hill that's in front of us. But it started out there, and the Confederates, the Union was on the defensive. The Confederates pushed them back after a good hard day of fighting. And the Union Army started to rally and form a line as reinforcements were coming up on Cemetery Hill. So the Union Army started to form a defensive line down this ridge, and it looped around to Cemetery Hill, and then it looped back down and made a straightaway down this ridge that we're on, and ended on Big and Little Round
On that
Top.
final day.
Yeah, well, right. By the end of the battle, that's what the
Right,
line
okay.
looks like. Yeah, it takes
So
a
they
while.
were really kind of all around this area at any given point.
Right.
And do you think that it kind of mostly looked like this back then? Was it like open, or was there a lot more trees, do you think?
The park, well, it was a little more open than it is now, but the Park Service has done a great job in the last, say, 15 to 20 years, removing woodlots that weren't here at the time of the battle to bring it back to its 1863 appearance. Because there, I don't know what the proper term is. I can't remember if it's charter or whatever, but when this park was started, it was supposed to be so that a veteran could come back in 100 years and recognize it, know exactly where he is.
That makes sense.
Now, of course, it's never going to really be that way because in reality, at the time, these were all farms. So this is everybody's home.
Yeah.
So these fields would be full of crops or animals. You have a lot of livestock around. So it would be a little bit more different as far as what's on the land.
Yeah.
But as far as what's growing out of the land tree-wise, it's basically what you would have seen then, give or take.
Well, it looks like the field trip is caught up with us. You ready to roll out?
Let's go. All right, so this is we're at the Brown's Battery. It's Battery B, 1st Rhode Island Light Artillery. And they were actually positioned out in the field there a little bit more. But there's an interesting story with these guys. And while they're fighting on the 3rd day of the battle, there's a big cannonade before the culminating event in the battle known as Pickett's Charge. During this cannonade, a Confederate shell, explodes while one of these guns is being, not one of these particular guns, but a gun like this is being loaded. And it explodes right in this area in front of the muzzle of the gun. This is called the muzzle. The guy who's loading it with the rammer is standing, by the front, and there's another guy assisting him with another duty, and the shell goes off. It takes the one guy's head off on the left side, just the left half of his head is gone, and sends him several yards flying in the air. The other guy has his shoulder and a good chunk of his rib cage torn out to the point where they could actually see his lungs expanding and contracting as he breathes. And so, but he still has the presence of mind and strength enough to come and sit down up against the wheel. And as he's sitting there against the wheel, a sergeant comes over and, gets his last wishes and all that other stuff and blah, blah, blah. It's a sad story, but we don't have time for that right now. The interesting part of the story is the other damage that the shell did was it put a dent in the muzzle, right? So before the shell went off, the guy was loading the powder bag. So the powder bag is already down in here. When the shell goes off, he's loading the ball. The ball gets stuck because of the dent, can't go any further down, but because the gun was over, just to get into the good part, because the gun was overheated, as it cooled, it started to fuse around the ball, and they couldn't get the ball out. And so that cannon was useless now. And it was sent eventually to the Rhode Island State House, where it sat in the lobby or foyer or whatever the hell you call it, for 100 years. And in the 1960s, they're given a tour. They called it the Gettysburg gun. You can see it with the ball still sticking out there. And somebody smart enough on the tour raises his hand and he says, "So does that mean that the powder is still in the barrel?" And they said, "Yeah." And then he goes, "So you've got a big bomb sitting in the lobby of the State House."
Wow.
And so they realized, holy crap, you're right. And so they had to defuse it and everything. So I think you could still see the Gettysburg gun. I don't know if it's still in the State House, but you could still see it somewhere. And it doesn't have powder in it now, so it won't explode on you.
Thank goodness. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So it looked like this, huh?
Well, so this is a different model of gun and different circumstances to why this is in here. But if you just want to get a visual for what a muzzle looks like with
Right.
a ball jammed in it,
Is there any gunpowder in the back of that?
I hope not.
We're back.
Oh, look at that. So that's how it works. Oh, I see that. Okay, there's
Yeah,
the
so
lens.
there you
Yeah, that's clever. All right. All right, so we're on the field of Pickett's Charge. And we're looking south, roughly. And to our right in the tree line is the Confederate line. To our left, up on the ridge there where all the monuments are and the cannon, which you probably can't make out in the video, but you can see the obelisk, that's the Union line. And then that white car, two white cars-ish, are going down the Emmitsburg Road, and that's going to play an important part in the battle here later on. But on July 3rd, somewhere early afternoon, Robert E. Lee orders a cannonade, a bombardment of the Union position in order to soften the defenses of the Union line. And that goes on for about an hour. There's about 150 guns, both sides, that are arrayed and firing at each other. It's the biggest artillery bombardment on this continent. And some say, and I don't believe this, but some say it could be heard in Philadelphia.
Oh, wow.
I say that's malarkey, but whatever. You never know. There's stranger things that have happened, I guess, in the world. Anyway, after the bombardment is over, Lee's infantry comes out of the woods. Now, it's called Pickett's Charge, but the overall commander was General Longstreet. And Pickett's division, which was about 6,400 men, if I'm not mistaken, they are joined by two other divisions under the command of Trimble and Pettigrew. And those divisions were heavily engaged on the 1st of July. And they have a lot of walking wounded in their ranks, which means they were wounded, but not badly, or not bad enough that they cannot go back to service. So they're not in the best shape. And they're going to be in the field right in front of us here. Those two divisions are going to come straight out from those trees to our immediate right and just come straight across. Pickett, on the other hand, his division, I don't know, can you see that farm equipment there that's causing the dust out in the distance? I don't know if the people in the video can watch it, but a good distance out, Pickett's division is arrayed. Some of his brigades are in the fields. Actually, two, I believe, are in the fields using the reverse slope of a ridge for cover. And then another brigade is in the woods. However, the guys that are using that reverse slope for cover, they're using it for cover from the Union artillery, but it provides no cover from the blazing sun up ahead. So Pickett's division, all the way out there by the dust cloud, has to close the gap. I think the gap I read was about 700, 800 yards wide. And so they've got to close the gap so that the left of his division is shoulder to shoulder with the right of the divisions here, okay? That's some fancy footwork to do with 6,500 men under fire, but somehow they're able to do it, and they do unite somewhere just before the Emmitsburg Road there, and then they cross the road, which has fences up, and so that means they have to climb the fences, or if there's a break in the fence, then they all funnel through there. But whatever, they're now in range of Union muskets. So let's back up. When they come out of the woods, they're immediately in range of Union cannon. And so the cannon starts to do a number. By the time they get to the road, they're in range of the muskets. Thousands of muskets are going off at once, sending lead flying out into the field, into the fences and into the bodies of these men. A good few hundred, maybe 1,000, 1,500 or so, actually make it over the road and get up to the wall that the Union troops are behind. Only about 200 of them make it over the wall, and those guys are either killed or captured or wounded. And then the rest retreat. They fall back. Some said that they walked backwards all the way across the field because they didn't want to be shot in the back, and they didn't, because not because it's more painful, but because then if word ever gets home that you were shot in the back, they'll assume you were running, and you don't want to be thought of as a coward back home. This is back in the days when men were supposed to be men, right? And not whatever. I'm not getting political. I'm just saying, I'm including myself. Like, I'm a wimp too. Like, I couldn't handle it. So these guys were, they were of a different sort than what we are today, is what I'm trying to say to you. So anyway, battle ends. There's about 10 to 12,000, I kind of lean around 12,000 troops that were involved in the attack. So on the Confederate side, they had about 12,000 troops, is what I'm trying to say. 50% of them are going to be casualties. And here's an important thing that everybody at home should remember when you study the war, whether it's the Civil War, any war. The word casualty does not mean killed. It means killed, wounded, and missing. And so there's 50% of those men are killed, wounded, or missing. And that happened right out here on this field.
Wow. Incredible. Incredible. Look, you did that story justice. I would not have been able to come up with any of that stuff at all.
Well, how do you know I did it justice? I could have been making the whole thing up.
He's lying to us. He's lying.
I might have forgotten some things and mixed them up, but yeah.
Nah, really cool stuff. I'm sure everybody viewing at home really appreciates the solid historical facts.
Well, they better, because I'm very thirsty. My mouth is dry and I'm running out of water.
Alrighty guys, well that was Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Huge thank you to Matt.
You're welcome.
This video would not have been as insightful and entertaining without him. So please, what is that?
It's our logo, Addressing Gettysburg.
Oh, there you go, Addressing Gettysburg. Please check out his channel, his content, his podcast. All the links will be in the description. Please.
I'm sorry we couldn't, sorry to interrupt you, but I'm sorry we couldn't show you more of the battlefield. But this guy had a rollerblade.
It's because I rollerblade.
They don't allow rollerblading.
It's a new rule.
Didn't know that.
It's all good. But yeah, thank you guys again. Thank you for watching. Shout out to all the members. Like the video if you like the video. We have more videos in the playlist below. And that's it.
Peace out.
Don't forget to ring the notification bell.